Hey, do you teach yoga? Have you ever trained to lead yoga classes, to be a yoga therapist? Have you ever owned a yoga studio? Maybe even just wondered what it was like for the women and men up there in front of the room on their mats, leading you through endless Surya Namaskars, down dogs, and pranayamas galore? Well, these are their stories, and mine. I'm Rebecca Sebastian, a 20-year yoga teacher, 10-year yoga therapist, yoga studio owner, and co-founder of a yoga-focused nonprofit. I've done a lot in the yoga world over the last 20 years. Pretty much everything except had a water cooler. You know, a place to share stories, talk about struggles, successes, and find other people who do the same thing that I do. Welcome to Working in Yoga, a podcast and substitute water cooler for yoga folks to connect and build community, to share our unique profession, our challenges, and our journeys with the world.
Hey friends, welcome to Working in Yoga. This week is part 2 of a conversation about training, data, and community organizing with naturopathic doctor and yoga therapist Stevie Inghram. Since recording this, Stevie and I have been talking behind the scenes about a free gathering we want to put together this summer for folks who are interested in organizing in their own U.S. states. We're going to build the structure of an organization that people can then copy in their own communities to advocate for yoga pros in those spaces. Once we work out the structure for the U.S., we will be launching some very loose structure for those people who are abroad, so we can do the same thing anywhere. This won't be designed to take the place of organizations, but to work in tandem with them, if we so choose, to build the industry we all need and deserve. As I said, this is part 2 of 2 episodes that Stevie's on, so if you didn't listen to episode 1, go back the last week and listen so you can catch up. I honestly cannot wait for you to hear everything we talk about. Before we begin, though, if you would consider signing up for our newsletter, I would be so grateful. Each week you hear from me about what's happening in the yoga world, how to get up-to-date info about the podcast, the magazine, and more. And if you are a subscriber to our podcast and you have been catching our limited series called What Nobody Told You, let us know what you think. Head to workinginyoga.com/contact and drop us a line. This week's episode is titled Nobody Told You That Organizations Believe in Yoga, but They Don't Believe in You. This one made me sweat to record, y'all, and I feel like you can tell that when you listen. It's a doozy. If you haven't caught these mini episodes yet, they're dropping every Monday at 7 a.m. through May. Now, let's get into it with Dr. Stevie Inghram. Okay, can we talk a little bit about how, as we're having these discussions, how we make these decisions and with what data do we make these decisions? Can we talk about that for a little bit? Because I have a real passion for data now because I see it as such a huge gaping hole in our industry. Can we talk about that, please?
So I think all of us in this profession, and I know Stephanie Munoz has talked about this, all of us agree with the fact that data and evidence is important in the progression of a profession. But my honest truth, and I can find a multitude of other colleagues to speak on this fact as well, what many of us witness within the professions of holistic health and medicine or integrative health and medicine is that our governing bodies that regulate our individual professions are not transparent about this data.
Go off. I'm going to sit back. You will talk for as long as you want to about this because, yeah.
And so I genuinely don't understand why that is. As people that are professionals within each of these individual professions, we all genuinely want to see these professions succeed because by the profession broadly succeeding, we all succeed individually. And this is an issue throughout all of these professions: acupuncture, naturopathic, chiropractic, yoga therapy, Ayurveda. our professional organizations will not share data with the public or even with people within the profession.
I know.
So how the fuck can the profession progress forward if we do not have access to data and there is a limited amount of people making decisions about the profession because they are the only ones that have access to that data?
Yes.
It's delusional to me.
I mean, I think delusional is actually a kind word. I think it's structural. It's structured to be that way on purpose. It's structured to keep the power in the hands of the few people,
Yes.
because we can't properly advocate for our profession if we don't
Yes.
have the data to support our thought process.
Yes.
Like we keep saying, oh, nobody has jobs or nobody's making enough money. And some organization is going to be like, oh, well, that's not right. Trust us. We have data.
Exactly.
And that's the end of the conversation. It's like a cult, like cults have thought terminating cliches that end conversations. The data is that for a lot of these organizations because they're just like, oh no, we have the data, but you don't. The end.
Yeah. And this is part of the hierarchies of harm that are persistent across the board. I'll provide one example of this, and I'm going to call out the naturopathic profession. And I do this not because I hate the profession, it's because I want to see the profession do better,
Yeah.
as I want to see for all of these professions. There has been a persistent and ongoing narrative that the pass rates for the licensure exams that graduates of naturopathic medical schools take, there has been a persistent public misrepresentation of the MPLEX pass rates for the field of naturopathic medicine.
Mm.
And then when people within the profession get access to government records, we realize that the data is a lot worse than the profession is publicizing out in the open. And
No.
so, why do people within the profession have to go to the fucking government to access data that we should have the right to as people that want to see these professions succeed?
Yeah.
So this is one of the big issues in this profession, is that there are people in positions of power that are just doggedly rooted to that position of power,
Yes.
a handful of select people making decisions about the direction of the profession without the consent or knowledge of the people within the profession.
Yeah, that 100%. I mean, that goes all the way through yoga, from yoga teaching to yoga
Yes.
therapy to yoga training to all of it. That applies to the entire industry. Can
Yeah.
we, for the people who are listening who are like, I don't understand what data you might be talking about, I'm going to give an example. For example, in yoga therapy, the employment rate of people who find work on a semi
Mhm.
regular basis after you graduate from a yoga therapy program, that could be data that would help people choose whether or not they're going to spend $20,000 on a yoga therapy program. But nobody has that. But presumably, even if they're collecting it, the IOIT, what other data do you think would be beneficial for people to know?
Yeah, I mean that would be a good start.
Wouldn't it?
The
Wouldn't it
the
just?
the the employment data, it would be a good start to have, a kind of like debt to income ratio out there in the world. It would be a great start to just I think just have more transparency in the profession and make professional progression more of a community-based activity as
Yeah.
stakeholders within that profession.
Yeah. I mean, that could start with yoga teachers too, just knowing on average how long it takes a person to make their money back from a yoga
Yeah.
teacher training,
Yeah.
assuming that you're not going to, that you have a job elsewhere, and
Yeah.
assuming that you have a full time profession, say you pick up 10 classes, how long would it take you to make your money back? Is it
Mm.
a livable income? If you decide, if say the Yoga Alliance decides that it's not a viable professional path, then they have to justify why they're taking our money because
Yes. Yeah.
they're a registered trade organization. I think that would be useful data. How long does it take for a studio to be profitable? For all the people who are like, if only I can teach long enough, I know enough to open my own yoga studio. I think that'd be really useful information. Studio
Yeah.
owners are pretty transparent amongst ourselves, but nobody
Yes.
else knows it.
Right.
So, what other, I think, data of objective benefits of the practice, like who it truly benefits and who it does, like we love to say yoga for hormone balancing because everybody wants to sell middle-aged women that stuff. Like, does it
Right.
help? Does it not help? Like, do we
Yeah.
have data behind it? That would be useful.
Yeah. Yeah. And part of this equation within specifically holistic health and medicine, I mean, we can certainly talk about clinical data. That's always going to be an issue in holistic health and medicine because it is extraordinarily expensive. Like, we're talking millions of dollars to design a clinical study on, clinical outcomes for, a big population of people. You know, many clinical studies, like these randomized double-blind placebo-controlled trials that are considered to be like the gold standard in medicine, those are often hundreds of millions of dollars to
Yeah.
run. And so here again, the data issue is a monetary issue in our profession.
Yeah. It's all about the money, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, okay. If we're solving for X, X is what? X is making more money.
X is giving people the opportunity for a livable income.
Which I love how you said that. Like, none of us are trying to be wealthy multimillionaires.
Exactly.
We're literally trying to go on vacation somewhere where we could afford to get on a plane. Like, that's
Exactly.
it. Like,
And yet, I hear from mentors in the world of naturopathic medicine that there are administrators within the world of naturopathic medicine that are controlling these accreditation bodies that are raking in millions of dollars per year that are traveling the world on the dime of students that are trying to pass these licensure exams. So there is a gross inequity and power imbalance. And I know I keep talking about the naturopathic profession, but it's happening across the board within
yeah.
holistic health and medicine. And I suppose the reason I'm so passionate about this, I know I'm kind of like breathing fire right now. And I do feel angry about this because, especially in the field of yoga, when we are trying to live by the principle of satya, of truthfulness, we can't even get truthful or transparent about the goings on of this profession.
Yeah.
So, how are we practicing our yoga if it's not applied to actual professional development? There's a massive incongruency here, and that's what I'm trying to point out in this conversation. So I am frustrated, but I think that's why I'm so passionate about this, is because I don't want the yoga therapy and Ayurvedic professions to go the route that we're seeing now with the other professions in holistic health and medicine.
So, and I will only speak to yoga. I think Ayurveda's attitude is a little bit different than yoga's attitude, which is probably because yoga is more ubiquitous in a household. Everybody
Yes.
knows about yoga.
Yes.
When we bring this up, what I have noticed when I bring this up in conversation with other people, the answer is often, well, I didn't train to be a yoga therapist or to get my master's degree in yoga from, the South Asian Studies of the University of London program, or
Mm,
to get a 500-hour yoga teacher training certificate for anything but my own personal practice. That
mm,
tends to be the sort of, if we're going to use that phrase, thought terminating cliche again, of like what people will say to stop thinking about the fact that we have built an unethical professional path, if you could
yes.
even call it that. What are we going to say gently and kindly to those humans who say, but I just did it. I just did it for me. Before we keep going, I want to tell you about something I built because it didn't exist and it should have. Inside Yoga Magazine is a trade magazine for yoga professionals, not a wellness lifestyle blog, not a beginner's guide to down dog, a trade magazine, the kind that treats our work as the legitimate profession it actually is. It's digital, it's ours, and it's the first of its kind. If you've ever picked up a trade publication in literally any other industry, and thought, why doesn't yoga have this? Well, now it does. You can find it at insideyogamagazine.com. The link is in the show notes.
I think that that has been a long-term issue with
Yeah.
yoga teaching and yoga therapy. And quite frankly, I think it's been an oversight of existing leadership because there's certainly nothing wrong with pursuing education for your own spiritual benefit, but then offer pathways for people that don't want to be therapists and that don't want
Yes.
to be teachers.
Yes.
Because now everybody's a yoga teacher and soon everybody's going to be a yoga therapist. So if everybody's doing it, what meaning does it have?
Yeah, I think that's a really great solution. Something that I think as an industry we really have not fleshed out at all. Like
Yes.
some studios have offered pathways for deeper education that isn't a 200-hour teacher training program, which I think is
Yeah,
like step one. My studio did that. In fact, my studio had that as a requirement before you could enter a teacher training program.
that's great.
Um, so that was step one. Then, but what, as you go forward and people say, I just want to know more, I think you're right. That bit of knowledge, the knowledge share, is different than teaching people how to be a yoga therapist or how to
Yes.
be a skilled yoga teacher.
Yes.
Um, we just have to say that outright, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is an oversight that has persisted since the 70s when, you know, yoga started gaining more like cultural awareness here in the West. Because we saw this massive onslaught of people, studying with these Indian gurus and becoming yoga teachers. And, probably many of those people in like the 60s and 70s, like hippie movement that were drawn to the philosophy of yoga, probably just wanted to do it for their own spiritual benefit and not
Yeah.
actually like be a teacher of a particular lineage.
Yeah, I think that is one of the things that really erodes the gravitas of the work that we do. This is
Yes.
actually the first time I think on the podcast that I've talked about this, like this acceptance of people who are doing the same trainings but not taking it to the professional level. Like, you mean to say that me as a 500-hour yoga teacher and, Nancy over here, who's also a 500-hour yoga teacher, but she just really wanted to know more. And she'd done the 200-hour and she loved her teacher so much she wanted to spend another 300 hours with her, which is totally and legitimately a thing that happens.
Yes.
Um, but Nancy and I are not the same because this is my job. Like, I paid my kids'
Yes.
bills with this job.
Yes.
And Nancy's husband has a great job in finance. So we're not doing the same job. And so therefore, there is an erosion of gravitas of our training,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. So I think that needs to be, again, with people that are in these leadership roles, need to be having these conversations and hopefully providing pathways to delineate between people that just want to pursue this as, spiritual practice, which it is, but, for themselves versus actually taking this practice out into the world and helping people with chronic pain or digestive issues or whatever the case may be. And so we need a much deeper conversation on this across the board. Um, yeah, we just we can't continue on this trajectory because it's harming
Yeah.
everyone. These existing hierarchies in place are harming everyone. And these hierarchies have a stranglehold on these professions to such a degree that we're not making any progress.
What is our solution to the hierarchies? Do we burn them? Do we like I'm just spitballing. Do we, dox everyone on the internet and then they all are too embarrassed and they go off to their own houses and we like replace them with new people? Like how what is our solution to this? Because I rarely hear solutions from people that are not replacing one hierarchy with another hierarchy. It is the
Yes.
question I think I am personally asked more than any other question is when are you starting an org? And
Mm.
my answer, like so many people have asked me that question, and I'm just like, I don't know that that's the answer to the problem that we actually have.
Yeah. I think we need people in positions of leadership that are humble and willing to actually engage with the community of professionals. Because the problem with the hierarchy is people are sitting up on top, making a select few, the executive director and the board of all of these organizations across integrative health and medicine is what, maybe 5 to 10 people
Yep.
making decisions for an entire profession, like I said earlier, without the consent of the people in those professions. So leadership has to fundamentally be far more humble, especially when culturally we're having conversations about billionaires buying elections.
Yes.
It's essentially the same thing, but on a smaller scale in our professions. And yeah, that's the thing to me about yoga, even outside of naturopathic medicine, is if we are truly living by the ethical principles of yoga, we can't behave this way and we can't have people in leadership that are behaving this way. It's antithetical to the practice. And so in my mind, we're kind of at a standstill until
Yeah.
we can get people in leadership that are going to kind of engage the community and sit in a circle with the community rather than sit above the community and make decisions about us. So, I think it needs to be, decisions made for us by us, not decisions made by executive directors that aren't even yoga therapists, that know nothing, or board members that aren't even yoga therapists.
Is there a way for us to bypass these hierarchical models? Could we potentially make them less relevant? Maybe put them in their place a little bit?
Yeah. So this is this is getting into like anarchy territory, which is which is something that I've actually you'll read kind of maybe in my 7,200 word article and in other posts on my website. Because of so much of the hierarchy that I've witnessed and the power plays that are dominant within holistic health and medicine, it really caused me to question these hierarchies and, say, just ask myself, why are people behaving like this? Why are people so stringently attached eh, to their views and perspectives on how, like, the professional direction that
Yeah.
we should be moving? And so there's attachment. And so I suppose the only way that I can say it is we need something far more grassroots. We need people to get out of their, castles, so to speak. We need leadership to actually truly engage with the profession. And what I want to say about hierarchy and anarchy, which is anti-hierarchy,
Yeah.
is that anarchy doesn't mean no leadership.
Yes.
It anarchy promotes the idea of voluntary association. So what that means is a group of people might decide, hey, we think this person really has an amazing skill set to lead this organization, but at the same time, they've made an active commitment to continually engage with the community of people of which they're representing. But that's never what happens in these circumstances. It is always a top down rather than a linear, it's a top down hierarchy rather than kind of a linear format where, we might be engaging with people that are experts on particular topics, and that's great. But it all needs to start with the fundamental awareness and intention of always engaging with the community. Otherwise, it is always going to become hierarchical. And, from an anarchist perspective as well, people don't have to be in those positions of power all the time or, for 6 years or 10 years. People can, that's
Yeah.
the whole thing with voluntary association. Get an expert into an organization, allow them to perform their expertise, with the knowledge and consent of people within that organization, and then get out and allow the next person to, you know, come in that's an expert in another area that's going to serve the purpose of that organization. So that's fundamentally what I would like to see across holistic health and medicine is a much more communally driven approach to professional organization. But unfortunately, as we're witnessing, high level in this country, there are so many people that are holding on to their position of power all because it's benefiting them financially. And it's the same for people in leadership within these professions. And I think we've got to get really fucking honest about that.
Yeah, I think to me, and again to like redirect that question everybody's asking me, like like I think people would laugh at the amount of DMs that just literally are like, "Girl, whenever you start your organization, I'm on board." And I'm
Yes.
like, I just can't justify repeating this cycle of hierarchy.
But yeah, and let me say to that, herein lies the problem with everybody in the profession is that people are expecting you as an individual to
Yeah.
start the organization versus how about let's all of us gather together and envision how we can progress this profession forward as people that are on equal linear footing.
Yes.
It
I
does,
mean,
it should never be the responsibility of a singular individual to start an organization, regardless of how much people see you as a
yeah.
leader in the profession, Rebecca, and that's amazing, but it's not your sole responsibility to do that. We've got to get other people engaged. This is a community organizing issue within our professions. We have got to get the community engaged and envisioning how we can progress these professions forward. And we are just not there across any of these
Yeah.
professions.
I agree with you. I do think, again, if we look at the new yoga organization on the market, the American Yoga Council, when they came
Mhm.
in, it is really them. And I do, have faith that they're led by wholehearted people who are truly passionate about the profession. We'll see how it goes. But it is sort of this, and I've said this phrase, I know, several times on this podcast, it's Disney fairy tale thinking. It is the idea that someone will come in and rescue us. And to be quite frank, that is a trauma response. That is
Yes.
100% us feeling traumatized by our experiences within this industry. And
Yes.
instead of shifting it and going, this is how we can empower each other, we
Yes.
just keep going, oh my goodness, if someone has a vision that's even remotely close to what I think is should happen, I'll just follow them.
Yes. We don't need any more savior complexes. Like no
No.
singular individual or no singular organization is here to save us.
Yeah.
So we all need to be joining forces and not kind of force the expectation on one singular person to start an organization. So my hope in you and I having this conversation today is to like maybe get those wheels churning in people's minds because I think, as Westerners, we are kind of the thing that's coming to my mind right now, it's kind of a cult mindset
It is. It is really, truly.
to believe that there's somebody that's going to save us. And perhaps that does have to do like with Western Christianity and what we're seeing play out in our politics right now, that people believe that there's going to be a savior that's going to quote unquote make America great again. Again, delusional thinking.
Yeah. It's true.
So these are the cycles of suffering, the samskaras that we all have collectively in this profession that we're continuing to perpetuate.
Here's what I think we should do. I feel like this summer we should just host a organizing YouTube or Zoom day where we get as many people who are interested in organizing as possible on one Zoom call. And we say, look, go to your state, go to your, principality and organize there. And then we can all meet back together here and high five later on.
Yes. Yeah, and that's something that I mentioned in my article is we can have individual kind of nodes of organization, in each state that are all kind of working on these things that then would, kind of report if eventually if we wanted to build something like this that would, kind of report to the national organization.
Yeah.
So it would be a whole network, a whole kind of like interconnected spider web, so to speak, of people that are operating at the communal level together to progress these professions forward, and specifically yoga therapy and Ayurveda.
Let's just build that this summer. Can we just do that? Because I feel like I have enough time this summer. I actually think if we can get enough people to invest individual responsibility in collective care, that
Yes.
and it's by enough people, I don't even think we need 100. I think we need 20.
Yes.
We need 20 invested people in different locations who can build systems that other people can replicate. That's all we need. That's not that hard. We know how to build a system we can replicate. All of us have taken an Ashtanga class at least once. Like, we know how
Right.
to build a system that is repeatable over and over again.
That is a very good point. Yeah, I think it would be amazing that if we could do something like that. And I think that needs to be a part of all of our inward work as individuals pursuing
Yes.
this path of yoga, to look at the ways in which hierarchy shows up in your life. And I'm not saying everybody needs to become an anarchist,
Just the two of us.
just the two of us.
We'll cover it.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying seriously, as a yoga therapist, do your inward work to reflect on how hierarchy shows up in your life and whether that hierarchy is actually serving you. Because I think if people do like an adequate inward assessment, they're probably going to see that these hierarchies actually are not serving us. And the only way that we can serve us is by communally joining together and creating something that involves all of us. And to do that, we need participation by everyone, people operating not on the belief that there's going to be a singular person that's here to save us in this profession. So I think that's where we need to start and slowly build up from there.
Okay, so before you tell everybody how to find you, I'm going to say this because I just decided we're going to do this with this podcast. So, all of you who've made it this far and who are listening, I want you to go to the show notes. There will be a reflection sheet for you to examine how a hierarchy shows up in your life and how you can reflect on how you can give back to our yoga and yoga therapy community. So, that will be a free digital download for you if you want to do some of that reflection. Stevie, tell everybody how to find you so they can follow you around and be obsessed.
Yeah. So you can find me. My current website is futuredrstevie.com. The doctor is just DR. It's not spelled out. Uh, I am in the midst of developing my official doctor website, which is going to be ndstevie.com. So I hope to be releasing that within the next month after I graduate. So that's where you can find me. You can also find me on Facebook. The name is Stevie Geo on Facebook. I'm largely trying to get off social media, and actually I have gone off of Instagram, TikTok, all of that. So yeah, you can find me in those places. Please feel free to reach out via email. I'm trying to think which email I would like you to email me at, but you can just email me at futuredrstevie@gmail.com for now. That may change, but I will keep that account open so people can contact me. So yeah, and thank you, Rebecca, for having me here. And I just want to give a shout out to everybody. Thank you for sitting through my fire today. I'm very passionate about this but ultimately it's because I really genuinely love holistic health and medicine, and I want to see us operating with integrity, truth, and equity. And so I hope that came through today in everyone listening.
Thank you. This was so good.
Thank you.
This was an epic 2-part series. Thank you so much for chatting with me, Stevie. If you're interested in coming to our gathering this summer on Sunday, June 28th, check out the registration link in the show notes or on my website, workingyoga.com. Also, Stevie and I made a reflection guide for this episode that you can also snag from our show notes. And next week, I have an interview with fellow podcaster and full-time yoga teacher, Reka Schukert. And I just love the energy Reka brings to the conversation, so I know you won't want to miss it. Until then, let's go get to work, and I will catch you around the water cooler next time.